welcome to episode 3 of Trek Retrek here on Geek the F Out. Thank you for geeking the F out with us. This is where no man has gone before. But first, a little housekeeping because we forgot to do something last time. We forgot the That's What They Said section.
Yep.
So
Also just forgot to say our names. I'm
we did.
Kayla.
We'll get it, folks. This is
We'll
only
get
our
this.
third show. She is an ensign. I'm Johnny. I'm your captain. We are covering Star Trek from the original series, the first episode to the last, the movies, then Next Generation. I have seen everything.
And I have seen nothing. I am like Jon Snow. I know nothing.
So our housekeeping is we forgot to do That's What They Said for Charlie X. So this is the That's What They Said section for Charlie X. Kayla, you want to take it away?
Yes. Get in the mood. Want to see something?
Turn them over.
Well, how did you do that?
I won't get in the way.
I know what it is. Let's play.
She's not the same.
Are you coming in?
Oh.
Sorry.
Well done. I can make him do anything.
Oh, can you? Sorry, I got a lull too into it.
Those are your That's What They Said lines from Charlie X, curated by Ensign Kayla herself. So,
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm
Um,
here all day.
So, where no man has gone before. I need
But woman has probably gone.
Probably.
Because we're the ones that have to do everything.
So tvguide.com says this episode, on a probe beyond the galaxy, the Enterprise encounters an unknown force that transforms two crew members into superior beings determined to take over the ship.
Spoiler alert, it's really just one.
Yeah, and so
eventually two.
We alluded to this a little bit in Charlie X. I think these episodes, and I don't know if it's because we kind of watch them back to back, but I think maybe watching them in airing order, if you watch Charlie X and you wait a week and you watch this episode, they suffer from being back to back because they're kind of dealing with similar things.
Yeah. Very similar.
So they talk about going beyond the galaxy, which is not really something that it's weird. So there's this is before they had really like worked out how warp drive worked and how long it would take to get from Earth, which on galaxy maps of Star Trek is in the Alpha Quadrant, which is really far from the edge of the galaxy. In current Star Trek technobabble, like you can't, it would take 100 years or more to get from Earth to the edge of the galaxy. So it's weird. So, but you just got to kind of suspension of disbelief and push that aside because that's really like very little of the episode.
Yeah. It's also I realized this I think when we were saying the summary last episode, but I was like, oh my god, it's like Fantastic Four. They like encounter this weird what was it? What did it? Cosmic radiation.
I don't know that they actually named it. It's just it was kind of unknown barrier. It's like a cosmic barrier
like
that they flew into.
Cosmic field something like that. But I was like, "Oh, it's like the beginning of Fantastic Four," and by the beginning of Fantastic Four, I am talking about the one with Chris Evans, of course.
So, I mean, the episode's fine. I do think it suffers from being back to back with Charlie X because
Yeah.
the the main antagonist of the episode is again someone with telekinetic powers, telepathic abilities. It's a lot
That
of a
exponentially increased too.
yeah, it's a much different scenario that they're in,
Mhm.
but it's a similar plot device and
Yeah.
antagonist and obstacle to overcome. So a lot of my notes are really about the fact that this was the second pilot. But before we get into that, uh, what
Okay.
what did you think about the episode overall as a whole? Uh,
Um, I will say I'm glad you have more notes because I wrote maybe 10 things compared to the
okay.
like 30 I wrote last episode. I think just because they were so similar, I was just like, wow, it's like the same thing all over again. Like this person with powers, which in both instances, they really didn't know the extent of as well. Um, slowly taking over the ship.
Mhm.
Like, that was what was happening. Exactly what you said, like, different reasons, different circumstances. Um, yeah, I thought it was okay. I thought it was a little bit better than last episode for sure. It didn't seem as I guess monotonous is the right word just because, yeah, last episode, it was just kind of the same little things happening again and again with Charlie. But yeah, this episode, at least when things were happening, they seemed to continue to like escalate and then we learn more, like new things were happening essentially, I guess is what I'm getting at. Um so I liked it. I I'm yeah, I would recommend it probably more than last episode, but we'll get to that later.
Okay. So this episode starts stardate 1312.4. So it's an earlier star date than either of the other episodes. Um, the general notes
Mm.
I have are there's more blurry close-ups, which is I don't I don't think I noticed any in Charlie X. I don't think there were any blurry close-ups in Charlie X, but there were definitely blurry close-ups in this one, like there were in the Man Trap.
Hmm. Once again, you noticed, I did not.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
gonna be a trend.
so things that stuck out to me. Uh,
Okay.
and we'll talk a little bit. So this is the second pilot for Star Trek. We'll talk a little bit about that more in the episode trivia from Memory Alpha. Um,
Okay.
the Cage was the first pilot. This was the second. Spock is in green/gold uniform instead of the blue we saw him in the previous two episodes. These
Mm.
are the uniforms that the Antares crew were wearing in Charlie X. Like they had those big
Mm.
puffy collars on them.
Yeah. Maybe that's what I was thinking of before.
The Enterprise is different too. I'm kind of I was kind of surprised because obviously like we talked about the fact that these are remastered episodes, so the visual effect
Mhm.
shots were redone in CG. But
Yeah.
the Enterprise in this has the larger deflector dish on the front of the engineering session, and the
Okay.
nacelles have two little like rate on they look almost look like antennas coming out of the
Uh-huh.
red orbs, the buzzard collectors on the end, and they don't have
Huh.
that on the Enterprise in the previous two episodes. So they
Hmm.
redid the visual effects and used the different design of the Enterprise in this. So I thought that was kind of
Interesting.
interesting. Um,
Yeah, that is interesting.
Sulu is
Trying to
in
visualize that.
yeah, Sulu's in blue, when he
Mhm.
normally wears a red uniform. Um, the
Okay.
next the next thing I have written is confusing to viewers. I have to think that if you're watching this week to week and you tune into this show that looks similar but very different to the previous two episodes you've seen, are
Yes.
like how confused are you watching this on a week to week basis? Did
Must
did
have
it
been confusing.
did it stick out to you? Did you think like, why does this stuff look different?
Yeah, especially the uniforms, like, they keep changing, and I feel like something that one of the few things I think of when I think of Star Trek is how the uniforms are always the same.
Mhm.
So that's really stuck out to me, and, yeah, just kind of, like, the format of the episode, even though this one was very similar to Charlie X, um, still, I felt like it was yeah, just, like, the format, the style, how they went about it, while still similar, I was like, "Okay." Like, it's fascinating to me that these 3 were set I mean, as we found out, the second one wasn't supposed to be the second episode,
Mhm.
but it's still so fascinating to me that these were supposed to be, like, back to back to back and somehow make sense.
Yeah.
Like, okay, sure. Sure, Jan.
So they're talking about well I'm jumping ahead. So espers, um
Mhm.
I don't think I've ever so the term itself espers, I think I've only ever heard here and in Final Fantasy 6. Uh
Huh.
which in Final Fantasy 6, I don't know if you're familiar, the espers are
Mm-mm.
in like the summons from other games. So they're in Final Fantasy 6, they're little crystals that contain magical beings that they call espers. Um,
Mm.
that's the only other time I've ever
Sounds
heard
like
that word.
that sounds like what it would be. I'd never thought of that. I had never heard it until they said it, and I was like, "Oh, was that a term they came up with?"
I don't know. I get what they're saying. Like ESP
Huh.
obviously is extrasensory perception, and they talk about that a lot in this episode. And then
Yeah.
I'm assuming espers is someone who has extrasensory perception,
ESP.
an
Yeah.
ESP-er. Um,
Yep. Er.
no bones in this episode. And I think I have that in
Yeah.
my facts for the trivia. I believe I have that noted. Yes, and we'll talk about that more in
Huh.
episode trivia. But Bones is not in this episode. It's a different doctor.
Yeah. Just
Um,
interesting because, I mean, I know Sulu, but, like, he wasn't in last episode at all and was, like, barely in the first episode. So it's, like, interesting that this episode, then he has, like, one line. I was like, "You seem like you're supposed to be in this more, but you're not, at least not yet."
Scotty's in this too. I
Mhm.
don't recall if he was in. I know he was not in the Man Trap.
It's the
If he
accent, right?
Yeah. If he was in Charlie X, he was, I think. He was in the transporter room at the beginning, but that was it. Um but
Oh.
he's in this episode a little more. Um
Hmm.
the next thing I have is when they're in the briefing room talking about Gary's abilities and talking
Mhm.
about how they're growing. The penny
Mhm.
doubled every day. In a month you'll be a millionaire. I had to look that up. Uh
I did it too.
did you?
I literally I didn't look it up, I just did it.
I was like, that doesn't
I
make
literally
sense.
just did it on my phone. I was like, "Times, times, times." Yep,
I googled it.
it's
Yeah,
true.
by day 30, you will have 5,368,709
Mhm.
$709.12.
So not just 1,000,000, 5,000,000.
Yeah. Um,
That's crazy.
the next thing I have is just kill him. I'd be an awful ship captain because like everybody's telling you to kill him. He even told you to
Yeah.
kill him. Just kill the dude. Like just
Yes.
Just do it.
Just do it.
Just
Do
kill him.
it. Yeah, no, I was right there with ya. Just with, like, how the level of, like, creeped out I was at Charlie was, like, how much I was like, "Get this dude out of here or kill him, like, something, like, he needs to go. Bye-bye. Don't care if you've been friends with him for long." And apparently wasn't the best friend because he, like, set up that one girl with you to distract you,
Yeah.
and Kirk was like, "The hell?"
He's like, I almost married her.
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh my god, he's literally kept that secret for so long, like, clearly not actually a good friend."
Yeah. Um, I mean, yeah, it's he was. It depends on how that relationship went. If he almost married her, I assume that it was going well. But
Yeah.
the catalyst for it was to distract apparently his teacher, because he said Lieutenant Kirk's class, and he was teaching a class at the academy, which I just
Yeah.
weird. I don't remember much about that. But that is apparently what it was. Um, we're gonna
Oh,
talk
that's
about what's that?
sorry, I just saw in my notes that I literally wrote "constantly changing uniforms?" question mark, ugly sweaters velour.
Yeah, these uniforms are really bad sweaters, and they
Yeah.
look at like what we've seen in the previous two
Real
episodes
bad.
are they're still kind of like really casual for what you would
Mhm.
feel like would be the uniform on a starship, but
Yeah.
these are just like the leftovers.
Yeah, really casual and really sweatery.
Yeah.
Like, not as much like a thin shirt material, it's definitely like sweater. Give me sweater vibes.
Not as casual as Kirk's wraparound, the green wraparound, but get
You
used to that
know,
because it appears a lot.
yeah. The wraparound does?
Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, and I did when we were talking about smoky eye last episode, the first thing I put in my notes was no longer smoky eye.
Yeah, Spock is very different in this. The
Yeah.
characterization is not quite nailed down. The way
Yeah.
he speaks, the way he's talking is a little odd, um, real jilted and uh,
I was
kind of robotic.
yeah, I was thinking that too. He just seems very different, at least from what I think of him as from the little I know and from the Chris Pine movies, as I'm just gonna continue to refer to them. Um, like, he seems kind of all over the place, and yeah, exactly what you said, they haven't quite nailed him down yet. So it's interesting to see them try different things out with him because I think what they eventually landed on was really good because right now it's just like, eh.
The next thing I have my my favorite thing to talk about so far, because I've talked about it for all three episodes, the cups.
Take a drink every time we talk about cups.
I noticed something new. The cups have the United Federation of Planets logo on them.
Okay.
It was not visible in the
Improvement.
previous episodes. When Gary like telekinesis the cup over to himself, there's a shot of
Mhm.
it, and you can see like the UFP logo, the galaxy map with the stars and the laurels leaves on it on the cup.
Mm.
So these had to be made for the show.
Yeah.
I'm really curious about these cups. If those gray cups with the black band were just paper cups that were available in the 60s at like Piggly Wiggly, Ralph's, whatever it was out there.
Piggly Wiggly.
or or if they I still want to know if they spray painted these cups gray, put a black band on it, and then stamped the UFP logo on it, or if they like ordered them. I'm really fast. I don't know why I'm so fascinated with these stupid cups.
No. So sorry, I keep yawning. I'm sure if you dig deep enough on the internets, probably on Reddit, someone knows.
I'll probably find out.
The
Uh,
good old internet always knows.
Also, shout out this. I just thought of this. This isn't my notes. and that's why I wore my like engineering operations badge. Shout out to
Mhm.
the engineering crew in this episode because they did some major work.
They did.
The abandoned facility that had a ton of control panels that they just happened to be able to repurpose for the Enterprise was really convenient. Um,
Yes. And I feel like they did all the work, but we're still under the radar because kind of kept forgetting about them. And it's like, oh yeah, we're repairing the ship. That's what's happening.
mhm. um, it could not. I can only imagine how hard it was to actually see out of those silver contact lenses that
Oh, so were they contact lenses for
I
sure?
would assume they had to be. So what it made me think of is uh years ago, like before I was even in high school, my best friend's dad did a haunted house every Halloween. And
Mm-hmm.
he had a bunch of us, we participated, my friend was always the wolf man. His brother was like one of the slasher movie villains, but his dad was always the Grim Reaper. And he had
Mm.
these hard plastic like red and yellow lenses that he essentially glued to his eyeball and wore them. Yeah.
Glued?
Yeah. If I'm remembering, I might be misremembering because it's been like 30
I
years.
don't think you glue things to your eyes.
I remember him
What?
like pulling his eye open and like having to, and there's like sticky stuff coming on. It was gross because they were like a hard plastic
Maybe it's
dome with
just
a
the
hole in the center.
lubricant?
I don't know how they worked, but I'm assuming these were something like that because even I don't remember
So
his name.
weird.
The actor who played Mitchell, like he constantly had his eyes like half shut and was looking down. And I
Mhm.
don't know if that's because these things were bothering him or if it was for
Yeah.
dramatic effect when he would look
They
up and really
looked
open his eyes.
yeah, they looked like a shattered kind of look to them, like, it wasn't like a
Mhm.
solid silver, so that's why I thought, like, "Oh, maybe they did that in post?"
No,
Um,
I think there's some kind of physical thing. I might be wrong.
okay. I have no idea. But yeah, there was yeah, that creeped me out a little bit, but, um, I mean, they looked cool, that's for sure.
The only other thing I have written down is that there was a when Kirk was trying to find them with the phaser rifle and he comes into that like passage, he
Uh-huh.
leans against the rock wall and you can see the rock like boom bubble in. So it had to be made of like
Dang it.
latex or silicone or something because it just kind of like gives when he
Weird.
goes through it.
Ah, I
Also,
missed that.
I don't know if Gary used his powers to shape that rock the way it was, but it was very convenient that it just fell and fit right in the grave.
I think there was a bit or he, kind of scoped it out maybe. I don't know. But yeah, it was a little convenient. I was like, at least it could be like somewhat misshapen, but still cover the hole.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was interesting.
That's it. That's all I have written down for this episode.
Yeah,
I
I don't
again,
have too much. Go ahead.
I was gonna say again, I think it suffers because of, and granted, we're watching in the original airing order. Like I feel like
Mhm.
that's what we decided was going to make the most sense to do is watch it in the order that it aired. Um,
Mhm.
I feel like binging it like this, we're not binging because we're not really doing a binge. We're kind of watching one or two episodes a week. But
Mhm.
being back to back with Charlie X, I think hurts this episode more than it
Yeah.
hurts Charlie X because obviously you're going to watch Charlie X first. But
Mhm.
yeah, it kind of hurts this episode being right after Charlie X.
Just a little bit. I put chess set again.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna keep an eye out for that chess set.
this would
Um,
technically be the first appearance of the chess set
so
because
interesting.
this was shot. This was the second pilot, which we will get into in a little bit.
Yeah. Um, I can't remember who, but someone said Galaxy's Edge, and I was like, huh?
Yeah,
Galaxy's
they
Edge.
did. I had that written down too. Galaxy Edge, and I thought the same thing. I'm like, not Star Wars, not Disney.
Yeah. um, I'll save my next one for favorite line. When what's her face? The one that ends up turning into
Dr. Daner. I think it was Elizabeth Daner.
yeah, her. um, when she goes in to check on him when he's in the dispensary and his vitals get really low and she's like leaning over him and then he's talking to her. Her hand placement is interesting. Just say that.
Like where it was like beside his. Oh, I,
Yeah. I was like, it looks like it's really close to that. I hope it's not.
it was
um
it was weird too because they're like all of a sudden she's real interested in him when like on the bridge earlier she was like, nah.
hell no. Yeah. I mean, I get the like psychological standpoint of being interested in him, but still. And my last note is pancake hands shooting lightning. Like how they shoot it at each other. They're just like there's not like pointing or like any kind of thing like that. It's just like pancake hands. Like not even like that. They're like at the same level. Like this at least looks better than this if y'all are watching.
Yeah.
Like having them staggered at least looks better than like next to each other like a zombie or something or like a mummy.
Hmm.
Very interesting looking. But yeah, that was about it. Yeah, I think you're definitely right that it kind of suffered being right after Charlie X. I think if it had come later in the season, I might have had more notes about it.
It's interesting, or before it's interesting when you have this kind of thing
Mhm.
because it reminds me of a friend of mine. There's an anime called Vampire Hunter D, and I
Mhm.
first saw it when it aired on the Sci-Fi Channel during their anime weekends in like the 90s. Um,
Mhm.
and it has since been, and it was a dub, so it was dubbed in English. It has since been redubbed, and I have it, and I
Uh,
he had never seen it, and I started. We watched it together, but we watched the newer dub, and the whole time I'm like, this sounds weird. Like it sounded off to me because it was a different dub than the one I'd watched for years. So
yeah.
I went and we rewatched some of it with the original dub, and he's like, so, this sounds weird to me. So it's
Mm,
like if this had come first and Charlie X had come second, would we have like flip
okay.
flopped opinions about the episodes?
Right
Ha.
after each other?
Yeah.
I know.
Like if we had watched this one before Charlie X, would we have a different opinion about the two of them? Would we have had
Yeah.
more to
I
say
mean,
about this one?
yeah, I think we would have for sure had more to say about this one. I still sorry. I still like it more than Charlie X. I don't think that would have changed. Um yeah, it just cuz yeah, it got to the point where I was like, "Okay, this is like the same old story again." I think even more so would have been better if it had come before and Charlie well, it would have been better for Charlie X if this was first and then Charlie X came later in the season.
Yeah. If because again, like we talked about with Charlie X and a little bit here, they're very similar. Someone with mental powers taking over the ship.
Mhm.
The resolution
Yep.
is much different because they do subdue Gary and they take him down to the planet,
Yep.
and essentially are just going to leave him there. It doesn't work
Yep.
out that way,
Nope.
but yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting thought experiment to see like
It is.
the manner in which we're exposed to things makes our perceptions different.
It
Um,
is.
I don't
Another
have
psychological experiment.
I don't have any favorite moments or lines that I can think of from this. Uh, Nothing really stuck out at me to
Yeah,
highlight.
that's
What was your
that's
one?
fair. I think the pancake hands shooting lightning
Okay.
to fight, and then the walking freezer unit line. That was funny. And just such a, you know, his, douchey thing to say
Yeah,
that I was like, that's very fitting. And then I like how she brings it back up to him later.
right.
Which of course he's just like, oh, I'm sorry about that. I'm like, nah, whatever.
So is I to use the parlance of our times, the kids these days, is Gary Mitchell a Chad?
Oh yes.
Okay.
Frat bro Chad to the extreme. Especially like when he brings up his memories with Kirk too. It's like, oh, remember back in the day, and then that one memory he brings up, it's like, oh, I've been worried about you since blah blah, and then it's like she was a Nova or something like that. But
Yeah.
like comparing it, I was just like, that's such a broy Chad thing to say for sure. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. I do have a single. That's what they said.
Okay.
Just one. Um, because I struggled with Charlie X as well, but this one I don't know if maybe it was just like I was struggling to watch it, um, or what, but like I just have one, and it is hold this position. It's a decent one, but there was
Yeah.
probably more, but my brain was just not functioning clearly.
Um so that will bring us to episode trivia, which
Mhm.
there's quite a bit to cover here.
Ooh,
So
okay.
this is the second pilot for uh Star Trek. The
Mhm.
Cage, the episode that is listed as episode 1 on Paramount Plus, we have not watched yet, even though it's listed as
Mhm.
episode 1. That was the original pilot. So they shot and produced The Cage and showed it to NBC. And NBC said, "Nah, but do it again," which is apparently unprecedented. Like there's I don't know if it's at the time, at least they didn't ask for second pilots. They liked it
Huh.
enough to be like, no, we don't want to pick this up, but we want you to make another one.
Yeah.
So the entry on Memory Alpha says, although NBC rejected The Cage, they felt the series concept was strong enough to give Star Trek a second chance, despite already having spent an exorbitant $630,000 on the first pilot, which
Oof.
is 1960s money.
Wow.
So that's a lot. The net
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of money now to spend on a
Wow.
single episode of show. That's a lot of money to spend on a pilot.
Yeah. I'm thinking of like when Lost premiered, like that was like $1 million or something, and that was like craziness. But to be almost $1 million.
I
Or
don't
wait, what
think
was it? What was the amount?
$630,000.
600. Just kidding. Two thirds of $1 million back then. That's crazy.
And it doesn't note that anything about like adjusted for inflation or anything. That's
Uh,
$630,000 in 1960s money. Um it says the network ordered 3 scripts from which they would choose one to be developed into an unprecedented second pilot. The 3 scripts were The Omega Glory by Gene Roddenberry, Mud's Women by Roddenberry and Stephen Kendall, and Where No Man Has Gone Before by Samuel Peoples. The advantage of the Omega Glory was it showcased Roddenberry's parallel worlds concept, could be filmed using existing studio sets on the back lot as well as stock wardrobes. Mud's
hmm.
Women was mainly a shipboard tale and could also be shot using the existing Enterprise sets left over from The Cage. In addition, both required a minimum of new outer space shots. However, Mud's Women guest starred an intergalactic pimp selling women throughout the galaxy, exactly what NBC didn't want, and the Omega Glory wasn't very good. The network finally chose Where No Man Has Gone Before, which, although it required many new special effects, sets, props, and costumes, was the most powerful and compelling of the three scripts. Memory Alpha credits that to Inside Star Trek: The Real Story, the Star Trek Compendium, two separate sources.
Wow, that is a lot to unpack there.
Yeah.
The other script sound I kind of wanna see that other script. Does that actually become
Mud's Women is an episode. I don't
okay.
recall if there is an episode called The Omega Glory. We'd have to look into that. There's not a season one episode called The Omega Glory.
Mm,
If it outright says it wasn't very good, I'm wondering if it ever got made. I haven't looked
yeah.
into it.
Too bad.
I don't see it in the list of season two. Oh no, it's an episode in season two. So they do
Okay.
eventually get shot. Produced.
Interesting.
Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah.
Hmm.
The last bit of trivia I have for this episode is veteran character actor Paul Fix got the role of the ship's doctor, replacing John Hoyt from The Cage. Roddenberry wanted to cast DeForest Kelly in the part, which, spoiler alert, he did. He originally wanted Kelly to play Dr. Boyce in The Cage. Then he was overruled by director Robert Butler's suggestion. Here again, Fix was recommended by director James Goldstone. Roddenberry thought Fix didn't work out well in the role, although he didn't have, this is me interjecting here, he didn't do much. Like the doctor in this
Mhm.
episode didn't do much. It says
Mm-mm.
Roddenberry thought he didn't work out well in the role and decided if Star Trek became a weekly series, he would cast Kelly as the ship's doctor, and he did.
Mm. Smart.
So, yeah,
Glad they
unprecedented
made that
second pilot.
change.
All the
Yeah.
characters are there. Rand is not in this episode. I don't. Was Ahura in this episode? I don't remember if she was.
No,
I don't think she was.
I don't think so. No, I don't think she
Mm-mm.
was. Wow, just, taking all the female characters out. It's fine. It's whatever.
There's another female yeoman at the beginning that he misnames. He says Kirk
Yeah.
says Jones or something, and she says Smith or vice
And
versa.
they have what's her face that I keep forgetting her name. The cute blonde cut, which the other one is blonde too.
Oh, uh, Dr. Daner.
Yes, Daner.
Yeah.
I can't remember her name for whatever reason.
Well, she's dead, so you don't have to worry about it. The character. I don't know if the actress is dead. The character is dead.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Who knows? Shall we do memes?
Yeah, I don't
Or is
think
there more?
I don't think there's more to cover without like rehashing what we've already said. So yeah, let's go on to memes, to spoilers without context. We
Okay.
have created these individually. I did not send you mine, so or I did not send myself yours, so you're gonna have to go over yours, because I forgot to put it on my resources here.
Okay. Um so the first one, if anyone is a fan of Broad City, that is Jaime with American flag contacts. that that scene is so iconic in my brain. I know there's a lot of other things with contacts that are, just as iconic, but it's especially the like crazed look he has in his eyes in this, I thought was perfect. And then the next one is, also the iconic line from Mean Girls. It's like I have ESPN or something. And then the one of my first girl crushes, Megan Fox saying I am a god in Jennifer's body, which That's also iconic, even though I've not seen that movie, surprisingly.
I have not seen that movie either.
Yeah, I really
I
need
know
to.
of it.
Yeah. Because isn't Amanda Seyfried in that too? I think?
I think she is, so I'm surprised I haven't watched it because we've talked
Yeah.
about how much I loved Amanda Seyfried.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah,
Got both of them in this meme too. And then the best one of the best memes ever from The Flash, which I love how it's been reproduced so much that people who have no idea that it's from The Flash use it all the time, but it's,
yeah.
Grant Gustin piecing over his own grave
I
or
I
Oliver's
saw.
grave, sorry, not his own
Yeah,
grave.
I saw that and I cracked up when you first sent it to me because I'm surprised I didn't think of it. Um, but it's
Yeah.
perfect because there's Kirk's
Yeah.
grave there.
Yeah, because I mean, he literally just like, here's your grave, here's the tombstone. I'm gonna throw you in there, and here's a rock perfectly shaped to fall on it.
Very
Yeah.
good. So we will go to my spoilers without context now. The barrier, just I just thought of a do not enter sign. Made sense to
Mm.
me.
Hmm.
The walking freezer unit obviously stuck out, so I just googled freezer with legs and that's what I
Oh my
found.
god, amazing! I thought it was ice cubes at first, so I was just like, I instantly thought it was a freezer, and then I saw the like handle and everything. I was like, oh, it's literally a freezer.
um and then for the ESP, I had to do the dinner for schmucks. Mind control, brain control. Your mind is my
Oh my
puppet.
god.
I love that movie.
Such a good one. I haven't oh my gosh, I saw that movie so long ago. I need to see it again. That was good.
It's been a long time since I watched it. It definitely needs a rewatch.
Yeah.
And then of course the shiny red button, the jolly candy like button. I always think of the Ren and Stimpy Space Madness episode, but uh, I found just a regular red button and use that. But that when they're at the mining facility and like willing to blow up
Yeah.
this the essentially the planet that
Yep.
supplies their ore, and they installed
Mhm.
the big red button. Uh,
Yep. Kinda like the Mando episode with, Christopher Lloyd's character, and it's like, "If I press this button, they all turn
yeah,
into battle droids." Spoiler alert if y'all haven't seen that yet. It was, like, 2 weeks ago now, so
yeah. I think we're it used to
we're
be
good.
the
Well,
spoiler.
in the future, it'll be even further away
Yeah, uh,
when this comes out.
it used to be the spoiler window for things was a lot longer, but in this day and age with social media and internet, and things the way they are, the spoiler window is like a week, maybe three
Yeah.
days. Uh,
Yeah.
it's it's much shorter than it used to be.
Mhm. And it also, I think, depends on, like, for TV shows when the next episode comes out. Like, if they're being released back to back to back, like, a few days. But if it's
Yeah,
something like this where it's, like, a week, like, would maybe give it a week,
yeah.
maybe.
And again, it's going to be even longer by the time you guys see this because
Yes.
we are from the future. Um, so
Oh,
do we
from the
want or
past.
no? We're from the past. We're time travelers. Let's
We're
just put it
going
that way.
back to the future.
So
What
let's
we're
rank
doing.
the episode. This is
Don't make me do it. See, like, I don't wanna do another ensign. Like, I really don't want to. I feel like it was better than Charlie X. I don't know. Like, I wanna say lieutenant.
okay. We'll say lieutenant. I think not to
Okay,
talk
I'll
you
say
into a
lieutenant.
rating, but I think if you gave Charlie X an ensign as it was skippable, then
Yeah.
this is watch it if you have time. If not,
Yeah.
don't bother.
Yeah. Yeah, lieutenant. I'll go with that.
This is going to be our first non-unanimous. I'm giving this episode Commander. I don't feel like it's good enough to give it Captain. I'm
Wow.
giving it Commander because of
Okay.
its more its historical significance, much like with the Man
Mm,
Trap, more of its historical significance than its
that's
actual
true.
content, because it was the second pilot for the series. Um,
Mhm.
and that was, like we said, we covered, it was unprecedented. So on a
Mhm.
on a historical perspective, it's definitely Commander. Um,
Okay.
from a
Fair.
episode content, I would also say Lieutenant, just
Mhm.
based on the story and whatnot. But I'm going with Commander because
Okay.
of its
That's
historical
fair.
context. Yeah.
That's fine. It's whatever. No, that totally does make sense. I get that. And that's, what we kind of did with the first episode, the man trap. Um eh, I think even with it being the second pilot, I'm just like, still.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason why it was not actually the pilot.
Yeah. I'm not going with Captain because I do not think it's an essential episode. Like, this is not a must watch
Mhm.
Star Trek episode. I do think
Yeah.
people should take the time out to watch it because of the background. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's not an essential. It's not the best of the best. You don't, if you don't
Yeah.
watch it, I don't think you're missing a super fantastic story or anything.
Mhm.
But I would rank it higher than Charlie X just on a watchability level too. I think
Definitely.
it's a more engaging, it's a more interesting execution of the same kind of trope versus the way Charlie
Yes.
X was.
Yes, yes,
So
definitely. Would agree with that.
that'll be it for Where No Man Has Gone Before. Our next
Yep.
episode, have you looked at the title of the next episode yet?
I have not.
This is going to be right up
What
your
is it?
alley. The next
Okay.
episode is The Naked Time. TVGuide.com says The Naked Time is about a highly communicable virus is accidentally brought aboard by a crewman and spreads rapidly through the ranks, driving the crew into unique forms of madness.
Okay, so in my brain, it's like COVID turned everyone into having an okay, just gonna leave that
We'll
blank.
find out next time. Um, I feel like I haven't watched this episode in a long time. I feel like you're going to have a metric ass ton of that's what they said pulled from this episode.
Yes. Okay, it'll make up for this
Yeah.
episode then. Perfect.
So look
Perfect.
forward to that. I think the spoilers without context will be interesting. This is an iconic episode of Star
Mm,
Trek.
okay,
So
I'm excited.
look for that next time on Trek
Nice.
Retrek. Don't forget. I think we forgot to tell people in the last one. Do all the YouTube stuff. Subscribe.
Yes.
Uh,
Smack everything.
the like button, the bell
Smack the
icon,
subscribe.
notifications. Tell
Smack.
us what you
Smack.
thought of Where No Man Has Gone Before in the comments. Smack
Mhm.
that like button like Spock smacked Nancy.
This isn't Nancy. Could you take this? Pancake lightning hands.
Pancake lightning. All right, everyone. Thank you for geeking the F out with us. Until next
Mhm.
time,
Dang it, I almost said the wrong thing. Peace and long life.
live long and prosper.